The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
It's 2019, baby.
All the hits. One station.
Bringing you the best mix of the best music.
Nothing but the baddest and best music.
Broadcasting worldwide.
One hit at a time.
Music.
Online.
One station. Hit music. All the hits.
24/7 around the world. Non-stop. This is Crossway.
To Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown, a musical talk show with in-studio guest performers and interesting program features. Anchored by the man with many titles: musician, producer, actor, director, YouTuber, filmmaker. Well, the list is long because he's the man and more. So friends, Canadians, ladies and gentlemen, your Sunday midday fun starts here. Welcome to the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 40, I want to say 47, but Regine's not here today to remind me what episode it is, so I believe it's 47, but we'll check in the thing after, but it's okay. It's 40-something of the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown, and I'm your host, as always, except for last week and the other time, but most of the time, I'm your host, Scott Dion Brown, and today my co-host, Regine Elena, is, she's not available today, but that's okay. We're gonna travel forward, and we're gonna push onwards, and we're gonna find a way to, 46. I'm being signaled that it is episode 46. Ryan in the booth. Thank you. So, anyways, here we are today at the 46th episode of the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown. Regina Lane is not here, but that's okay. We're going to keep on moving. And what did I get up to this week? Well, I went to the dentist and I had no cavities. So that was great. It was a winning week for me. And also, great news. The Leafs have signed Marner to a 6-year contract, so the city of Toronto is rejoicing greatly, and I'm very happy about that. And what else did I get up to? Editing, working on a bunch of stuff, and things are coming. Things are coming along on the 1,000 subscriber special. We made a huge leap forward this week. I'm not revealing any details yet, but please subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ScottDionBrown, and you will hear all of that wonderful news, because big things are coming. But anyway, we might as well kick off the show. And of course, we can't kick off the show without thanking some very important people, our executive producers. Today's episode of the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown is brought to you by our 2 executive producers. Do you want to find out what your home is really worth? Are you buying or selling a home? Then Jennifer C., realtor at Home Life Culture Link, is here to help. Call or text Jennifer today at 647-403-8887. Don't deal with just anyone. Speak to a professional. Jennifer C. at Home Life Culture Link. To see her current listings, visit homelifeculturelink.com. And our next executive producer, the Mortgage Godfather, is here to give you advice with any mortgage needs you may have, and he will shop to find you the best mortgage. Nino Saimeka, mortgage agent. He'll give you an offer you can't refuse. That's right. So give him a call today at 905-604-6955 or visit mortgagegodfather.ca. Thank you very much to our 2 executive producers. And if you would like to advertise on the show, please get in touch with us at radioshowad@gmail.com. You can advertise here on the show. We'll open up your business to a brand new audience. We read the ads live on the air every episode, personalized, of course. So that means if you have a sale or you have an event coming up week to week, you can let us know, and we can actually personalize the ad each week and read it to you and read it to the people, and we'll have a wonderful business relationship. So get in touch, radioshowad at gmail.com. So thank you again to our executive producers. And now let's kick off the show. And the way we have to do that, of course, is meet our guest. And we have a very, very interesting guest in the studio here today. And I have her intro. I have a bio here that I'm going to read. It's right here in front of me while I find it. Because Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I just had it in front of me. There we go. There we go. I found it. This is I'm on the ball here, everybody. I know I'm missing my co-host, but we're figuring it out. Our guest today is a new actor and writer. Her debut was on the CBC comedy Workin' Moms for season 3, which happened to be her very first TV audition. Before becoming an actor, she was working in music and creating performance art. She's lived in 5 cities in 10 years across 3 countries and is writing a book about her experiences with a working title of Nobody Suspects an Asian Female. Oh, interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown, Bonnie Wong.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Nobody suspects
Nobody.
an Asian.
Nobody suspects an Asian woman.
So you're writing a book.
I am. It's my first book. I'm 40,000 words in. I hope to finish by the end of winter. But I mean, because it's my first book and this is the first time I've ever gone through this process, I don't know how long it's going to take. This is a recurring problem with me, which is that I'm a perfectionist. So sometimes I'll sit on a project and just rework it and rework it and rework it and then never be satisfied.
Yeah.
I really hope that doesn't happen with this book.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good quality to have. I mean, you want to set a high standard for yourself, but I definitely know what you're talking about in terms of, it's your first time doing it and you want to make sure it's right and you don't know how long it's going to take. It makes sense.
Yeah. So Stephen King once said, I read this great book by him called, On Writing? It's a memoir anyways. It's half a memoir and half like advice to writers. And in it, he writes every single day. And in it, he talks about how you should... How writers who've written just one book, he's like, why only write one book? It's, if you can do something, why not do it? And I'm like, Stephen King, it's actually really hard to write a book.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Not all of us can write 2 books a year, which is what he does.
Yeah.
He has a ton of unpublished work, actually, because his publishers can't keep up with his... Because they're, like, afraid that they're going to flood the market with his work.
Yeah.
So they only release 1 book a year, and he writes more than that.
Yeah.
So he created a pseudonym and started writing other books.
I didn't know that.
Under a pseudonym, because he was like, I want to publish more.
Wow.
Yeah. But honestly, the process of writing, it's been a wonderful mental exercise, but it's like very monastic. Like you're by yourself all the time. I'm very social. I'm used to working with people. So like forcing myself to spend like 4 office hours every day, basically at a writing desk by myself in my own mind it's hard.
Well, you're 40,000 words in.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So how did you start writing? Like when you wanted to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write this book. Did you start at the beginning? Did you, I don't know, how did you start? Because I've never written a book or anything of that length before.
So my book is a memoir, so it's all based on real stories on my life. And I decided to write the book because I had spent 2 years in England, in Europe, working, and I had accumulated all these great travel stories that I keep telling people. And I had been told multiple times, like, you should write a book, including telling that to myself.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I read books all the time. I was such a nerd. I would read books on my way to class, in between classes, and I would read at the dinner table, and I would like go through a book a day sometimes.
Sweet.
Because I had a pretty boring childhood. So, so I needed to escape, and I wanted to read all the time. And I've always dreamed of writing a book, and here I am doing it.
Here you are doing it. And yeah, you're not sure when it'll be. I understand that. I mean, it's your first time, so how can you say? I mean, I remember I directed my first short film last year, and people were asking, "Oh, when's it going to come out? When's it going to be ready?" And I was like, "Oh, probably a few months. And it was like, and that's because in my mind, I'm like, "How long could it take?" Okay, I'm trying to think about it, but then when you actually sit down and do it, it was like over a year before it was. And this is like after I'd already shot it. It was just editing it and getting everything together. But it was, I don't know. How can you know? The first time you do something.
I hope to finish the first draft this winter. We'll see if I have to write a whole second draft or not.
Well, one thing that's good about the winter is it's It's going to be cold, so
It's good for working. It's true.
yeah, there'll be less. You'll be less inclined to feel like going outside. There's going to be plenty of days, I think, in this city of ours, the city by Lake Ontario, that you won't feel like going outside. So maybe it'll be good for creativity. In fact, maybe I'll benefit from that as well, because there's a lot I want to get done as well. So it's good. In fact, let's talk about. So you said you had a boring childhood. We talked a little bit about it before the show, but so tell us where did it all start for you? Where you're telling me earlier you were literally from
the middle of nowhere.
So tell me about that.
So I was born in Brandon, Manitoba, which I don't remember very well, but I was raised in Birtle, Manitoba, which is a town that no longer exists. It was decommissioned a few years ago when the federal government passed this bill, like decommissioning all towns under 1,000 people, because Birtle was only 715 people. Actually, no, it was 690 or something, according to the last stats can.
690.
Yeah, it was so few people. So the Canadian government didn't want to bother administrating all these tiny little towns. They made us all conglomerate.
Huh.
Yeah, so the town of Birtle no longer exists. I'm from the middle of nowhere.
It's a weird thing to be able to say. What is that? I mean, it's funny. I was born and raised in Toronto, so I've never lived anywhere else or any other place. The closest experience I have to that happening is my old elementary school was demolished. So that's the closest I have to like my roots no longer being there. But that's interesting. So you can literally say the town. So what happens? So I mean, obviously the people are still there, but it's now considered part of a larger. Like, what happens? So
the town of Birtle is no longer, I think you could still find it on a map. But basically, like legally, how it's governed is that it's now the Prairie View municipality. Like the nearest town, they just got combined. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Have you gone back since? Have you been back there?
Since it's been decommissioned, I actually can't remember, but the last time I was there was like maybe 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. No, at least 7. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My whole family has moved out.
Oh, since, I see. Gotcha. So you were born in a place that no longer exists, and then you've lived in many places, right? So you tell me. So what happened after that? So you grew up in this small town.
Right. And I think so many people who grow up in small towns end up with a chip on their shoulder where they're like, they want sophistication and culture, so they go and seek out urban centers, and that's what I did. I went to Montreal. Actually, I have a fun story about the first time I went to Montreal, because I have quite strict parents because I'm Asian, and they wouldn't let me take a trip there. I didn't even ask them, I don't think, because I was so sure that they wouldn't let me. But I had a friend who I had met at Encounters with Canada, which is like a youth forum that you do in Ottawa. Did you do it?
No.
Oh, okay. So I had this friend in Montreal, and he said, you should come visit sometime. And I was like, of course, I would love to. That'd be great. But knowing that my parents wouldn't let me go, I had to go by myself and figure out a way. Luckily, my parents, in addition to running the local Chinese restaurant, also were the Greyhound bus depot. So I just snuck down in the middle of the night. I was 16. I snuck down in the middle of the night, took one of their bus tickets, and like wrote in like Birtle to Montreal, and then just like got on the bus and handed the driver my ticket, and ran away to Montreal for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess if you just go, what can they do?
Yeah, I don't think I told them where I was until I got there, and then I called them from a payphone just so they wouldn't worry about me. Yeah. But I was so nervous because I was like, is the bus driver going to ask me for my ID? Is he going to realize I'm a minor? Is he going to realize that my parents aren't here to say goodbye to me? And then, but I get on and I hand him the ticket, and he just drives away. And I get all the way to Toronto thinking like, I'm free. I've made it.
Yeah.
But in Toronto, we transferred buses. And when I got on to the new bus and gave the bus driver my ticket, he looked at it and he was like, this isn't a real ticket. Where'd you get this? And I was like, I got it in Birtle. Just trying to be calm.
Yeah.
And then he was like, wait here. And he walks away. And I was like, oh no, he's going to call my parents. He's going to call my mom. My mom's going to find out I'm on this bus and I'm going to be sent home. I'm not going to get to go to Montreal. But That's not what happened. He came back and he just handed me a stack of tickets. I had forgotten to write all the transfer points because I didn't know how to actually write a ticket. I just like wrote to Montreal. But you're supposed to write like North Bay, Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, like all the places that the bus stops.
Yeah.
But I hadn't. But instead of calling my mom, the agent in Bertle, to confirm the ticket or whatever, he just like printed me a real ticket.
So when you say you wrote it on, was that normal at the time? It was written on where you were going?
It was for small towns because they wouldn't have the printer. They wouldn't have like the special printer for the tickets. They would just write them in themselves. Yeah.
Makes sense. But it just didn't have all the, because you didn't obviously know.
This also points to how old I am. Because growing up, I remember the time when we didn't have the internet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember that too. I don't talk about it that much, but sure. I mean,
we're dinosaurs.
Yeah. Or like having a dial-up modem. I remember that.
Oh yes.
And it was terrible. I mean, actually, no, it was simpler. It was we had one computer in our house, and it was the family computer. And yeah, that's how it was.
I wasn't allowed to use my family computer because I was a girl. Isn't that weird?
I mean, yeah, a little.
Well, it's also because my two brothers are both older than me, like 10 years older and 5 years older.
Okay.
So it was also kind of like it was their toy. They didn't want me to touch it.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's not the same now, but like my younger brother, he's only 3 years younger than me. But for the longest time, being 3 years older, like say if I'm 6 and he's 3, right? That's like a kid and like a baby, I guess. And then when you're 9 and he's 6, so he was always very young to me. And so I always sort of, like I remember one time, but do you remember SARS Stock when the big concert when like the Stones came and AC/DC came, huge Toronto, I don't know if you know. Anyway, there was a big concert and it was around right when I was in high school and my brother wanted to come and my parents were like, yeah, bring your brother. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have to babysit him. But like looking back, I'm like, he was a teenager. It wasn't really babysitting, but it took a long time before I started to see my younger brother as like, a fellow adult.
Same. Well. Still same.
You have younger siblings as well?
I do. I have a younger sister.
Oh. How much younger?
She's 5 years younger than me.
Okay, yeah.
We're all 5 years apart.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Did your parents plan it that way? Or
I don't think so.
It just
My
worked
mother tells me that none of us were planned. She tells us that only Alan was intentional.
Yeah, there you go. But it still worked out, so 5 years
Mostly
apart.
I think as like a myth to to discourage us from ever having sex.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah. So you said your younger sister, you still see her as like the baby? The kid sister?
Perhaps.
I mean, I know with my brother now, obviously there's, I think that dynamic never goes away of like the older and the younger sibling. But I mean, we go for beers and stuff now. And I don't feel the need to, I don't know, take care of anything or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a weird relationship with my family because I actually haven't lived in the same city as them for 12 years.
Oh yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
but I feel like our relationships are definitely evolving and changing, and we're. It's funny because recently my family has definitely called me out on. We call each other out all the time on like disrespectful communication now because we kind of grew up with like being real mean to each other. But now that we're all adults, we're like, stop. Don't talk to me like that, which is so healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Shows you're, in fact, in a lot of ways, it shows you're communicating better and that you can actually say how you feel and all that. Yeah, I guess, sorry.
Can I just say that I love being called out on my communication, and I love calling people out on their communication. I think that like talking about it is really important.
Yeah, I think not enough people do. And I think in relationships, if you can't communicate, that's the kind of thing that over years can cause things to erode or build up, or it's how you end up with like, everything exploding at once when like somebody, maybe they've not been able to say stuff that they've wanted to say for so long, and then they finally get fed up, So yeah, I think it's probably healthy. It's probably better. Definitely. So now you you pointed out an interesting difference is that you have lived in many different places. So you went to Montreal to visit for 2 weeks, and then
I fell in love.
Yeah.
Montreal was so beautiful. The pastel colors of the plateau houses, like the plateau is so whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
It's covered in vines and curly staircases, and it's so diverse. And it was so different than Winnipeg because Montreal was built a long time ago. So a lot of the architecture is just more. It was built at a time when people took more deep care and craftsmanship into building buildings and stuff. So yeah, I just thought it was luxurious, like a fairy tale. So I moved there and I lived there for 6 years.
wow. So yeah, must have been amazing. So
Oh, it was great. Sometimes I still feel like I'm a Montrealer because it contributed so much to who I am.
Yeah.
Spent some really formative years there, you know?
yeah,
Like,
and 6 years is not a small amount of time.
yeah.
Cool. So what did you do when you were there?
I went to Concordia briefly. I worked in music. Yeah, but I feel like so much of my time. Oh, I volunteered at this like anarchist collective called Right to Move. Called Right to Move. Like 3 days a week for like several years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I put in so many hours because the cool thing about Montreal is that you can really just bum around forever, endlessly, because rent was so cheap. My rent was never more than $300 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, my first apartment was like, I shared it with someone, so it was only $275. And then the next place I lived in was $275. And then I think, at most I paid $300 a month, which means that you can actually work a minimum wage job and still go on tour with your band, which is what everyone in Montreal does.
Yeah. Oh, there's an amazing music scene in Montreal.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the only place that musicians can really afford to live and go on tour.
Yeah, I can
It's
see
expensive to go on tour, like, because you have to stop working. You have to,
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do with your apartment? Like, are you just going to sublet it every time? Can you just leave it?
that. Yep. And then you've got all the expenses you're going to have when you're actually on the road. So yeah, there's a ton of things. So you worked in the music industry. What kind of things did you get into working in music?
So I began working in the music industry because Montreal is such a hub of live music, as we've talked about. And I love seeing live music. So I found myself every weekend at some, show, rave, basement punk show, whatever. And I don't really drink very much, so I would help. In order to keep busy, I just wanted to I volunteered and I sold beer out of bathtubs, at these DIY spaces, because that's the Montreal scene. Like, the music scene is so good because you can start playing these like DIY shows. You don't have to have management, PR, whatever book you an actual venue. You can just start by playing house parties with your friends, right? So I did that, and then I started to just get to know everyone, and then I would, suggest musicians to promoters or people who with the space to host parties, and vice versa. And then I moved to New York, and I ended up living at a music venue called Silent Barn, and it's in Brooklyn, and it's this old sewing factory with 4 bedrooms and then a giant kitchen. And we had parties in our kitchen, and almost every day. And we had international noise festivals come. I got to book a bunch of Montreal bands because that's how I was, I was like a Montreal ambassador.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you had made a lot of connections there and knew a lot of people there, I guess, by that point.
Exactly. Yeah, I booked Grimes' first show ever in New York.
Cool.
Yeah.
So So you're in New York. So then, where'd you end up next after New York?
Oh, I came back to Toronto briefly because I had decided that I didn't like working in music. No, I loved working in music, but I didn't like being a manager anymore. Because working backstage being part of the industry is great, but working backstage as opposed to on stage was starting to get to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I find so when I'm a musician myself, and I dislike all of the loading of equipment. I don't like any of that, but the big payoff is being able to at least go up on stage and play a show.
I actually love loading gear. I've got such a nostalgia for carrying equipment and wrapping wires. It's like meditation.
Oh yeah, find the memory of the cable and yeah. Okay. I mean, I can see that. I guess.
The part of being a manager I didn't like was that it's really hard to book 7 bands a week that you like.
Yeah.
There are barely 7 bands that I like all at once at a time or something.
Yeah.
So to have them all come play at your venue, it's impossible. So you end up having to book bands that are like,
Yeah.
and then it's hard
Yeah.
to work because then you're like, rather be somewhere else.
It's hard to stay passionate about it. Yeah, if you're filling in gaps with people you'd rather not have bring in at all, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. So then you came back to Toronto. What'd you do there? Because you wanted to.
Well, okay. So I thought that I might enjoy my job more if I studied audio engineering and became an audio engineer and recorded artists in the studio versus live.
Okay.
But that actually did not work out for me. I realized that it was too tedious. It's kind of like being a director. And the editing process is like you have to listen to the same song 100 times.
More probably.
And
yeah.
at least 100 times.
Yep.
And I decided that wasn't for me either. But then I was really lost and confused because I had been working in music this whole time and I suddenly didn't want to follow that career path anymore.
Yeah.
And so I honestly spent a year in Toronto just like not really knowing what I should do next. And so I decided to move to London, to England. Yeah, because I had a friend there and I knew about this I found out about this open youth visa that I could just get and then you're covered by the NHS over there. It costs £400.
Oh,
and
cool.
and all Canadians under 30 can go and live and work in England for 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. And this is before Brexit, so it didn't seem weird. And I was like, oh, this way I can live in Europe. There would be no language barrier.
Yep.
And I get to explore that part of the world because I'd actually never been to Europe before I moved to London.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that flight into Gatwick was so tense for me because I literally sold everything, packed up all my stuff. My whole life was in 3 suitcases that I was bringing with me to London. And I'd never stepped foot in London or any part of Europe.
And then there you were.
Yes.
So cool. I've never been over to the UK. So what was it like? You got off the plane and...
Oh, I loved it. I was immediately smitten with that city. It's so... London is it's a cultural mecca of Europe. Everyone flocks to London. It's the second biggest city. I think Moscow is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But London, people are really attracted to London. I think because there's so many English speakers as well in the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people immigrate there, but yeah, it was exactly what I needed. Definitely.
Cool. And you were there for 2 years, you said?
Yeah, exactly.
2 years.
To the day, 2 years.
To the day.
Yeah. Well, because my visa.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I wanted to be there for the moment my visa made me eligible to be there, and I stayed until the last possible day.
Makes sense.
And
So
I
you
would have
planned out
renewed
that
it
way.
if I could. I probably would have stayed there forever. Yeah, so while I was there, I was working at this nightclub, and which was a fantastic space because it was a circus nightclub with performance art. It was very creative.
Cool.
It was just hanging out with circus artists and drag queens all the time.
Wow.
And while I was there, I got scouted. Well, not quite scouted. Someone sent me a casting call and that I went to for a commercial. And I went to it and I auditioned and I didn't get that thing, but the casting director liked me and she just kept bringing me back because there are so few Asian actors in London. The Asian community is quite small there. So I got another 10 auditions maybe. And in those 10 auditions, I got 2 commercials.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And one of them was for Activia, and it was an international commercial. So the buyout was £15,000, and
Nice.
and in Canadian dollars, it's $25,000.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my god, I'm rich. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be an actor.
Yeah. Awesome.
That did not work out. Being an actor is about humiliating levels of poverty at first.
Yeah. It's like those
Don't go into acting if you want to be rich. Don't.
Yeah. There's definitely got to be something else keeping you there than just the dreams of riches. Exactly. It's yeah, you get you land the odd big one and it's nice, but then you don't know when the next one's coming. You sort of have to be comfortable with that insecurity, I guess, knowing what's going to come next. You don't know what's going to come next.
It is such a roller coaster. It really is, because if you mess up an audition, the feeling you get afterwards is just terrible. And then if you nail an audition or if you get cast, then you're on top of the world.
Yeah. Yep. It's you almost have to. It's a weird thing because so much of auditioning is you go in, and I've already resigned myself to the ideas like I'm going to go in and I don't really even expect that I'm going to get it. It's just sort of this thing where you just go in, you do your best, you put your heart on your sleeve, you go, you do your thing, and then you just leave, and it's like, oh, you didn't get it, and then you got to go in and go do it again for the next part. And then every now and again, you'll get that call that, oh, they liked you, you're going to take it. But it's almost like I don't know, it's weird. You have to have a weird glutton for punishment to be an actor, I think. Thick skin, I guess. All that stuff.
Yeah. You have to enjoy the audition process itself.
Yeah, so that's like a huge part of it. It's almost all of it. All right, we're going to talk more about it when we come. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back more with Bonnie Wong. And when I say commercial break, we're not actually going anywhere. I'm just going to read ads for a second. So here they are. This segment of the and I want the beats. Now, let's get a beat in here. That segment of the sit down with Scott Dion Brown was brought to you by Jewelry Forever. Conveniently located at CF Markville Shopping Center on 5000 Highway 7 East Markham. They do custom-made jewelry, repairs, and they change watch batteries, all done on site. Or you can shop online at jewelryforever.ca, where you can get free shipping with any orders of $149 or more. Jewelry Forever. Head on over to Markville and tell them Scott and Regine sent ya. Great friends of the show, them. And it was brought to you by the Canada's Top Choice Council, a nonprofit organization that is proud to present amazing events that are held annually that help grow the community, advance education, self-empowerment, and promote public appreciation for the arts. They put on amazing events. They had their Canada's Top Choice pageant recently. They are having the Give Back fundraising concert coming up in March. It's really a great event, and they're always participating in events year-round, especially during the summertime. So if you've been out and about and around the city and Markham this time of year over the summer, you've probably seen some of the influence of the Canada's Top Choice Council. So check them out. And it was brought to you by Intercontinental Consulting Services for Immigration and Settlement in Canada. Find out how you can live, work, and study in Canada. Visit icscanadaimmigration.ca. Come to Canada. Immigrate. Work. Study. Visit. So thank you very much to our advertisers. And once again, if you'd like to advertise on the show, please get in touch at radioshowad@gmail.com. And we'll set you up with a wonderful advertising plan and read your ads live on air like we just did to all the wonderful fine listeners and viewers here on Facebook and on the crosswaveradio.com. And so now we're back. We're back with Bonnie Wong. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back from the break.
Thank you.
So you got your first acting in England. That was your first one?
my first gig,
Mhm.
my first paid acting
Yeah.
thing. I had been in like a couple of fringe plays, high school productions. I was an improviser for a really long time in Winnipeg.
Cool.
But, the Activia gig was the first professional acting job I got. Actually, when I was 15, I went to a scouting event because I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
Or model or something. And so I went to the scouting event, and this guy in Brandon, Manitoba, told me not to bother because I was Asian and because there were no roles for me. And in his defense, he was not entirely wrong because I never saw anyone who looked like me on TV or in film. So I was like, you're right. There aren't any roles for me.
Yeah.
There's no work. So I guess I shouldn't bother spending $40,000 on school to do this. So I didn't.
Interesting.
So maybe he just saved me $40,000.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And I guess maybe at that time he wasn't wrong. Things have really changed now, I guess.
Thank goodness.
And,
Thank goodness they've changed.
Yeah, it's
and they
true.
still need to keep changing.
Yep, like they are. And I know. So so you said you were always interested in acting, and you kind of, but you kind of were dissuaded from going into it.
Yeah.
And then so when you got this job in England, did you decide then maybe you're going to go pursue it more fully?
Okay, so actually, I kept doing these auditions, and because I got booked twice in very few, like I had a good hit rate, basically, a good booking rate, and the casting director, she added me on Facebook, and we kind of became friends, and we would chat, and she was like, "You're really good. You should get an agent. You should do this. You look good on camera, and I was like, "Okay, I will," and I decided that was my new career path.
Awesome.
So I moved back to Toronto when my visa ended. And I got an agent right away. Like in 2 weeks, I got an agent and started hitting the ground, running.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now here you are.
Yeah, it was actually nuts when I first started auditioning in Toronto. I was getting like between 5 and 10 auditions a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I think largely due to the fact that people are realizing that diversity matters so much. And for so many reasons, like not just to represent minorities, but also like to reflect like a real, reflect reality. So, but because there are so few Asian actors, I think we get seen a lot.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I feel like maybe they are just auditioning me so that they can say they saw an Asian actor, but they're never actually going to cast.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to know, right? Because that's the thing. It's we're at a time right now where diversity is being pushed as it's never been more important, I think, which is a good thing. But I think you're right. There's probably some percentage of people who they want to seem like they're for diversity, so they do it for the sake. But then again, I mean, I guess there's no really way of knowing. I mean, on the flip side, I guess the only thing I can say about that is it's like, if somebody's holding an audition, right? And I think we were talking about this, like I had to hold auditions. It's like, it's possible that they're bringing in people that they have no intention of casting. But at the same time, I mean, there is cost every time they decide to bring in people for auditions. It's like, I mean, maybe if they've got they just have the money to sort of waste everybody's time.
If they have a bigger budget.
Yeah. But otherwise, I know me personally, I would never consider bringing in people that I'm not seriously considering, because why would I give that slot to somebody who I have no interest in when now I can't give that slot to somebody I am? So I guess it goes both ways. It depends on the situation, I guess. But either way, I think it's good that they're seeing more people. I mean, getting in the room is the big thing, I think.
Sure. And I also feel like auditioning at that rate allows you to relax a little bit more, because you just get used to it. You're like, okay, it's another audition.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I find it. I mean, I guess it's like anything in that, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, okay, so because I haven't gone to drama school or acting school, I have literally no acting training. So I've taken like a couple classes at this point, but I feel like the majority of my learning is from doing auditions and doing self-tapes and just self-taping and reviewing and becoming a better actor that way. Yeah.
I mean, I think, you're going about it the right way, I think. I mean, like the thing is, acting school is good. I mean, in high school, I went to an arts high school. So I was a drama major there. So we did drama every day for like 4 years.
Oh, you're so lucky.
So, yeah, you know what I actually was very lucky. It's true. But the thing that I found though was after I graduated and I started pursuing acting, I realized that there was an entire other skill set that you really can't learn until you just do it. And auditioning is especially the big part. I mean, in school there were, there'd be say a huge school musical or something and you have to audition. But it was kind of a small part of the overall. Like most of the time in drama class, you're just, okay, here's your group. You guys are going to do this show or something. So, but the actual process of auditioning, I don't think I realized how large a part of being an actor it was until I actually started doing it. And I think I agree with what you're saying. Self-tapes are so huge because it's almost, you get to actually see your audition, which so many times when you go into a room, you go and you do your lines, you audition for them, and then you never hear from them again, you never see them again, but you don't actually know what did you actually look like on camera. But
oh yeah, that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
a little while ago, it was a busy weekend, and I accidentally misinterpreted my agent's email, and I thought she had sent me a self-tape, but actually it was an audition.
Okay.
So I ended up making a self-tape anyway. And then when I went to submit, I was like, oh wait, no, I have to actually go to the place and do this again.
Yeah.
But it was actually amazing prepreparation for an audition to just like practice doing it on camera.
Yep. And you can actually see what works. Like I mean, and it is definitely something you get better at, because like I find now, like if I look at a self-tape audition of mine, even from like a year ago, I'm like, ugh, that's not any good.
Aww.
You know? But it's just, again, I can see now, like you start to, the more, I think it's just the more you're on camera and the more you see how you look on camera and how your delivery changes, and you can see, oh, this works, this doesn't, you know. You get, I mean, it's just like anything, you get better at it.
You absolutely do. I kind of regret not being a YouTuber because I feel like the practice would be really beneficial.
It's never too late to start.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, I mean, it is just extra experience to get in front of the camera.
Oh, who knows? Yeah, I'll probably make a couple YouTube videos eventually.
Sure.
I'm also planning on starting a eating Twitch.
Eating Twitch. So wait, does that mean you're going to?
I'm going to go on Twitch and I'm just going to eat things and people are going to pay to see it.
You know, I mean,
maybe, hopefully.
I mean, the funny thing about that is it's like, that sounds really out there, but when you realize that there are people who are actually making a living doing that.
Totally. People are making like millions of dollars just like getting to go out and have dinner with a tripod.
Yeah. What is it called? It's called mukbang.
Oh,
mukbang?
is that what it's called?
I think that's what it's called. It's like, I think in Korean, I think it's there's a lot of the eating people there. I think they're in Korea, a lot of them, but I'm sure they happen everywhere. They exist. So, you know, that's always an option. And Twitch for people who don't, Twitch is live. Like it's like YouTube, except when you go on Twitch, it's like whatever you're watching on there is actually happening in real time.
Well, yeah, it started because people wanted to watch people play video games or computer games, rather.
Yeah.
So they would watch like the best players of whatever game it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and most of Twitch still is gaming, but yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, but now it's many other things.
Yeah. Yes, it's. I mean, there's so many things. The internet's a weird and crazy place.
Weird and wonderful place.
Weird and wonderful, yeah, and awful sometimes.
Oh yes.
But you can pretty much
horrible as well.
But you know what it is? It's I guess it's just sort of a reflection of like all the different types of humanity. Because like that's the cool thing about it. It's like the best thing and the worst thing about it is that every single person on the planet pretty much can have a voice and just go say out there whatever they want or put out their version of whatever they're doing.
Even if they shouldn't.
And you know, that's fine. You know? That's the way it is. That's the world. And so anyways, you started acting in Toronto, and you were recently on Working Moms, right?
Yeah. So this was immense beginner's luck, perhaps, but my very first TV audition I went to, I did the audition, and I think it helped that the part was to be a nervous person because I was actually nervous. Mm-hmm. But I ended up getting cast.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
I'm
in episode 1, season 3.
Sweet. Working Moms, CBC. Very funny show, actually. I've watched quite a few episodes, although I haven't got to season 3 yet. But,
it's so badass. It's so feminist. I have so much respect for Catherine Reitman, who's the writer, director, and star of Working Moms. I mean, it's really flipping this idea, because we don't really hear stories about working motherhood.
No,
and now there's
true.
this whole show about it. And it's wonderful.
Yeah. CBC, I think, is, you can tell they're definitely really pushing to try to tell those new stories. Like a lot of their new programming is like that. Like I think they're actively, and I guess it's their role as the cultural broadcaster of the country, but they're actually trying to reach out and tell stories that have never been told before. I think it's a good thing. And I mean, it's good for us as actors as well, I guess.
Definitely.
So it's cool. How did you find? Did you find a big difference between being on set in a commercial and being on set on a television show? Did you find there was a difference in how it was structured for you, or?
Not really. I mean, I got my own trailer, which was cool.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't happen on a commercial. Usually you're like sitting on a folding chair on the street when you're not in the scene on a commercial, because the locations change so much. But yeah, I think that was the only difference. Yeah, it was just a bigger production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found for me the biggest difference I noticed was just the pacing and the amount of they seem to move along or move on much faster on TV. And I don't know if maybe just the budgets are different. That's what I found anyway. Like my first job acting was, or actually not my very first, but anyway, it was a commercial, and they had me do it like every little thing they had me do was like a million times. It was like, okay, it was for what was it for? Virgin Mobile, but there was like Starbucks involved, so I had to bring coffee, and like they had me like lift the coffee cup like 100 times. By the end, it didn't even feel like I didn't feel like a human anymore, right? And then I remember then my first job on a TV show was Frankie Drake Mysteries, also CBC actually. And I remember I got there and I was so shocked by seeing like the leads. They were like reviewing their lines like right before they even went on camera, right? And it was the idea that it was like they were just getting off book right before they got on, and then they went on. I think they did the whole thing in like 2 takes, and then they moved on. And I was so shocked coming from that commercial. I was like, wow, it's so, I don't know, different. I guess they have to get things done faster. But
speaking of commercials, has this music been playing the entire time?
Yeah.
I actually wasn't clued into it at all this
You didn't even
entire
notice
time. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to you.
You know, because the conversation has been so in depth, and so yeah, we always have some music going through the whole show. This is some smooth jazz.
Some smooth jazz.
It makes the whole thing. This is a very classy program, and so we're
hanging out at a piano lounge.
You know, play the next one. You know. Yeah, the music's literally been going. The music has not stopped. Now it hasn't been jazz the whole time, but it has been music the whole time. And you just now realized it was playing?
Just now realized.
Well, that shows you that's the quality of this conversation. It's been very, very in depth. And speaking of that, or actually not speaking of that, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back for the end of the show with Bonnie Wong. Does that sound good, Bonnie?
Yes. See you soon.
Okay, see you soon. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, but here we are. The segment, we've just been having this in-depth conversation where you don't even notice that music is playing, was brought to you by Cecile's Line Dance Class. First established in 1998. We love Cecile's Line Dance Class, great friends of the show. People from that class also perform at various events all across the city under the Dynamic Divas, but they're a lot of fun. And if you want to get fit, learn some sweet line dancing moves, and possibly perform in events around the city, hit up Cecile's Line Dance Class, first established in 1998. They have classes for all ages 3 times a week, every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Beam TV, 361 Wilson Avenue, Toronto. Thursdays from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. at JC's Banquet, 1686 Ellesmere Road, Scarborough. And every Sunday from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the Filipino Center, 4395 Shepherd Avenue East. Call now, 647-215-3013. Cecile's Line Dance Class. Line dancing with a twist. Wonderful, wonderful. And it was brought to you by Beautified by Romina, who normally I let Regine talk about this one, but Beautified by Romina is a professional, internationally trained hair and makeup artist. And she's amazing at her job. I can vouch for her personally, because one time I was on vacation in a sunny place, and sometimes the sunscreen washes off your nose when you're in the ocean. And sometimes you come back to Toronto and your nose is bright red and you have a performance that day and you look like a strange clown creature. But Beautified by Romina was able to, with the magic of makeup, make me look like a human being with a nose that is the color of the rest of my face, as is usually the case when I don't only get my nose really wet in the ocean. So anyway, Beautified by Romina, check her out and get her to do. She does makeup for all sorts of events, weddings, live performances where you have to host. She takes care of your sunburn. She handles everything. She does men, she does women, she does everything. So Beautified by Romina, talk to her. Thank you for advertising. And once again, if you'd like to get in touch and advertise, radio show ad at gmail.com. And we're back with Bonnie Wong.
Hello again.
Hello, welcome back. Did you enjoy the break?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. It's, we're very happy with our advertisers. And yes, and there's music playing right now as well. Although I think now you're probably aware of it.
Very much so. No, it's just like pretty low in the headphones.
Yeah.
And there's like
Yeah.
lights and cameras and all this
You know.
other stuff that I was trying to focus on.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. A lot going on here in this studio.
Yeah, plus this kind of music is like really easy to tune out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. It's kind of obviously I try to make it so it's not, we don't want it to be distracting.
No.
Yeah.
It's got to stay in the background.
It's kind of just setting the mood. You know, like this music is like, oh, this is cool. This is some cool people talking. You know what I mean?
Is that who we are? Are we two cool people talking?
Well, that's what the music suggests. So, why don't you, where can people find you if they want to?
Oh, please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is BONIWONG. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I don't post that often because I actually kind of hate Instagram.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But everyone's on it, and I do like looking at Instagram pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, I find, I consider my Instagram to just be like, it's a way for me to promote my like artistic endeavors or whatever. That's kind of all it is. It's kind of just basically.
Hey, it's how you asked me to do this.
That's true. That's very true. That's
actually, please tell me what led you to ask me here.
Well, because I followed you on Instagram, and so I see you're, acting and doing many things, and you seemed interesting, and I thought, hey, let's bring an actor on here to be on the show.
Oh wait, have you never had an actor on the show before?
Actually, let me think. You might be the first. Yeah.
Other than yourself.
Yeah. So no, so there have been a few other people who are actors, but they're also musicians. And I don't know if they've ever come on talking just as actors before. Yeah. We might have had one or two, but very few. And I think you're the first who it's just been you, because sometimes we've had times where there's a few different guests. So yeah, you're the first actor who has been a solo guest and just talking about acting.
I will take it. Where's my prize money?
It's in the mail. It's on the way. But yeah, this was fun. And it's already
thanks
almost
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's already been like almost been an hour. We've got like 2 minutes left.
Oh.
Did it feel like it's been an hour?
Oh yeah. I mean no, it hasn't felt like an hour. It's been so fun. This is great.
It's pretty fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, and all the best to you. So people can see her in season 3, episode 1 of
Yes.
Working Moms on CBC.
Yes, and probably a commercial near you playing somewhere.
Oh, okay. Watch for that. Watch for her on TV or online or wherever commercials are played. Keep an eye on her there.
Or not. Do whatever you want, really.
Well,
You don't have to pay attention to commercials for me.
you should. Trust me, it's coming. It's coming soon.
And please buy my book when it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
out. I also do like amateur stand-up comedy. And
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's just such good practice.
Yeah.
For acting, and I'm really performative, and I like writing my own material.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're saying like stand up, like it's just you go on stage and you do.
Yeah, I started
Wow.
doing it because it was like the most terrifying thing I could think of doing.
Yeah, I'm
And it's
terrified of that.
Much cheaper than jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, I guess it would be, but the same thrills.
But the same thrills, exactly.
And actually almost more risk, you might even say.
Oh gosh, yeah. Humiliating defeat sometimes.
Wow.
But when you get the audience to laugh, there's a high like no other.
Yeah.
It's quite lovely.
Wow. Yeah, I'm so envious of people who do stand up, because I do think it's well, I'm not the only one who says this, but it's almost like the purest form of like performing arts.
Totally, no, because you only have a microphone and your thoughts
Yeah.
to entertain a whole crowd of people.
Yep.
It's so direct.
There's no distraction. There's no you can't really blame, like if it goes right, it's all because you did it, and if it goes wrong, it's all because you
Yeah, you
did
can't
it.
be like the lighting was wrong, the microphone was not whatever.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
just
The sound wasn't good enough. Like the musicians. Oh, it's funny how musicians get so in their head when they think the sound is bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they'll listen to a show and you can't tell as an audience member that there's been like some kind of technical difficulty. But
Nope.
then afterwards, they're catching up with the musician. And they're like, "Oh, that was such a bad show," or like, or they're freaking out on stage because like they can't get something to work.
Yeah. That was the hardest thing. Also, as a musician, you don't realize how it sounds. What the audience hears is completely different also from the stage sound. Like usually the musician, especially on stage, all the speakers are pointed at the audience. And so depending on the venue, if there's a decent monitor mix, you can hear stuff, but it's never what the audience is hearing. So it could sound terrible to you on stage, but then the audience is hearing something completely different. And then plus that's also true, even if the levels are fine, it's that the audience ear adjusts pretty quickly, right? Like if this what's happening on stage is fun, they'll just go with it.
I think it's just also that the in the rehearsal room, musicians can, twiddle with all the knobs and make everything absolutely perfect, and that's what they get used to.
Yep.
And then they go to a venue with a totally different sound equipment system, and they get really flustered because it doesn't sound as good as it did while they were rehearsing. But it can't sound as good because you're using all sorts of different stuff.
Completely different.
And some venues have terrible sound.
Yes.
Not going to name any names, but you know who you are.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. I mean, I know. It's, I don't know. I've played many shows over the years. And yeah, not only is that there's a very wide range in quality of sound systems, and also like depending who's actually mixing the board. You can go to some venues where the guys or the girl is amazing and they're there. And then there's somewhere it's like the show starts and that person is not even at the board anymore. They're just
out having a smoke because they don't want to listen to you.
Yeah. Can I get something more in the monitors? Oh, no, never mind. There's nobody here. Hopefully everything is perfect from now. But that's how it goes. Well, this was fun. And
this was great.
This went by really fast. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Bonnie Wong. Follow her on Instagram at Bonnie Wong, BoniWong, to find out more about her acting journey, her writing journey. She's going to have a book coming out telling about all of her travels. And there'll be many more to come, I think, probably.
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Bonnie Wong. Find me online at youtube.com/Scott Dion Brown. Like I said, I recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which was very exciting, and I'm very grateful to you guys for subscribing. And I'm putting together a very fun 1,000 subscriber special to celebrate and thank you guys. So follow me on there, and it's going to be a great time. And Regine will be back next week, and we'll see you guys. Next time. But for now, once again, Bonnie, thank you so much for being here, and. We'll see you guys next time on the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown. Bye. Bye.
That's it for today, folks. The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown. If you think 60 minutes is not enough, well, you better catch us again next week, because it is not just about music or pure talk. It's your weekend pastime. And witness the next worthy of your time episode of the program right here on Crosswave Radio. The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown.